Hello, I am Ruby Falconer. Today's date is June 22nd, 2020, and this is an astrological update from the perspective of Shamanic Egyptian Astrology. Well, it's been a very intense and kind of unusual period over the last few days. Last week we had the solstice that took place on Saturday the 20th. And then 9 hours later, we had a new moon solar eclipse, which was visible on the opposite side of the world from where I live. For me, it happened in the middle of the night. If you live in Africa, if you live in parts of China, parts of Pakistan, India, you were able to see the annular eclipse. We weren't able to see it on my side of the world, but nonetheless, it was happening. We're still affected by it. And what was important about this particular eclipse is it was the second of three. We had a partial lunar eclipse on June 5th. We had this full annular eclipse. And what an annular eclipse means is that the moon covers most of the sun, but not all of it. So there is a ring of fire, a corona, around the darkness that's in the center of the sun. So it's a very striking image. And symbolically, it has great meaning as the image of sort of a birth canal. So that was our second eclipse. And then we have a third eclipse, a partial lunar eclipse, which takes place on the night of the 4th and the 5th, which will be visible for here in the United States, or at least part of the United States. So these three eclipses, and I've talked about this before, but they form a portal between two phases of experience. A phase of experience that started in January and ended on June 5th. And now we're in the middle of this portal, this transition, tunnel, birth canal, however you want to think of it, between that phase of experience and the next one, which starts on July 5th and goes toward until mid-December. So we're kind of in the middle of the Great Shift energy because the Great Shift energy started in January and ends in mid-December. So this eclipse series is very important, and it's accompanied by a lot of what I'm calling underworld energy. We have Neptune stationary. First of all, we had Mercury turn retrograde. That happened last week on Mercury turned retrograde on the 17th, 18th, that night, and it will stay retrograde until January 12th. July 12th. It's in Cancer. And so Mercury's retrograde, but not moving very quickly yet. So it's just moving out of station. We have Neptune stationary right now. Neptune changes direction tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on where you live in the United States. For us here on the East Coast, it changes direction at 12:31 a.m. tomorrow morning, the 23rd. But it's basically stationary right now. And then we have Venus slowing to station as well. Venus is retrograde, and the night of the 24th, 25th, Venus will turn direct. So we have these planets that are, none of them are moving very quickly, Mercury, Venus, and Neptune, and they're just kind of staying in place. And symbolically, what these planets represent is Mercury represents consciousness, how we communicate, how we articulate ideas. Venus is values, it's what's important to us, it's what we want to receive. And Neptune is the principle of change that has to do with slow, gradual change, a dissolution of a reality for something new to come in. So if we think about this, we're talking about our minds and how we communicate. We're talking about our values, what's important to us, what we want to receive. And they're both very much being affected by this larger process of change that has to do with a very slow, gradual dissolution of established order. And Neptune, because it is way out in the solar system, it stays in a sign of the zodiac for a very long time. Neptune entered Pisces in 2011, and it will stay in Pisces until 2026. Neptune rules Pisces, so it's in its own sign. So what we're seeing is this very slow, very gradual eradication of, in some ways, the Piscean age, a kind of a disintegration of an old way of being that's been going on for a number of years now and will continue for the next several years. But it's particularly intense right now because it's accompanying this Venus station and Mercury only very newly retrograde and just starting to pull out of its station. So when planets are stationary, things don't move very much. We kind of have this sense of we're sort of like, running in place, nothing's moving very quickly. And particularly when a planet like Neptune, which is one of the three outer planets that has to do with planetary change, when one of them are stationary, its influence is very strong. So right now that influence of Neptune is extremely strong. And so things feel very confusing. They feel very chaotic. They feel very uncertain. Things are dissolving away and we're not sure what's going to replace it. That energy is very strong right now. And that's the shadow side of Neptune, the light side, so to speak, if you can say that about a planet like Neptune, which is kind of an underworld sort of planet. It's Neptune is the Roman name for this planet or this archetype. Its Greek name is Poseidon. And in both these cultures, this is the Lord of the sea. And so we're talking about the underworld depths of the ocean. And that's the realm of Pisces as well, the vastness of the ocean, which is incredibly beautiful and also quite dangerous. If you're out on a raft in the middle of the ocean, you fall off, that's it, right? You're not likely to be able to save yourself unless you're able to get back to that raft. You can't swim for shore. You can very easily be overwhelmed and feel like you're drowning. And so that energy can certainly be strong when Neptune is retrograde, particularly when we have, planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are what we call the social planets in traditional astrology. They have to do with how we relate to others. And so there's a lot of confusion and a lot of dissolving kind of energy around relationships right now. Collectively, we certainly see that going on with everything that's happening in our world right now. Ongoing coronavirus, the Black Lives Matter, issues that are coming up, all of the things around governmental stuff, politics, all that energy is very confusing, very uncertain. We sort of feel like we're out to sea without a raft in a lot of ways. Now, the light side of Neptune is cosmic consciousness, higher spirituality, connecting with imagination, intuition, inspiration. So all of those things are true as well. There's a kind of a spiritual awakening that comes with the energy of Neptune as well, if we choose to use it that way. And it really does have a lot to do with our personal choices in this area, whether we're going to feel lost at sea or whether we're going to connect with something greater than ourselves and look for direction through that connection. So in Shamanic Egyptian Astrology, and I talked about this a bit last week, Neptune is Nephthys, who is the keeper of the mysteries behind the veils. And so what's happening, behind the veils, there's a lot that's being released to us right now, revealed to us right now. We're in this underworld journey anyway as we move through that tunnel from one phase of experience to another phase of experience. We're kind of moving through Nephthys' realm, through Neptune, through Poseidon's realm, sort of moving through that underworld tunnel. So all of that energy is very strong. And the thing about Venus, when Venus changes direction, it's been retrograde for the last 5 weeks. Venus turns retrograde once every once every year and a half, about 18 months, for about 5 weeks at a time. And Venus turned retrograde on May 12th, and it's in the sign Gemini. It's been in the sign Gemini for its entire retrograde period. Venus entered Gemini on April 3rd, turned retrograde on May 12th. It's turning direct this week on Wednesday, Thursday night, depending on where you live in the United States. And it's going to leave Gemini on August 7th. So we're having Venus in the sign Gemini for an extended period of time. And part of what this has brought forth is a very strong feeling of there being a lot of chaos around voices, a lot of dissenting voices, a lot of differing opinions, a lot of ideas being expressed. Gemini is the sign that has to do with communication, how we articulate ourselves, how we express ourselves. So a lot of energy has been taking place during this retrograde period was just sort of feeling like, what do we value? There's so many dissenting voices around what we value, what's important to us. And perhaps within ourselves as individuals, we've been feeling a lot of, well, what do I care about? What matters to me most? Is it this? Is it that? It's just all of this kind of energy. This feeling sometimes with Gemini. Gemini is very good at juggling a lot of balls, and it can go on overwhelm. It's like, we fling those balls up and they start to fall. So a lot of that kind of energy has been going on during this retrograde period. And we are going to have Venus turning direct. And so what that suggests is we have an opportunity, particularly during the first half of this week through, say, Friday or so, when Venus will be direct, to take some time to really okay, during this last 5-week period since May 12th, what am I really figuring out I don't value, that I don't want in my life? Therefore, what do I want in my life? It's a wonderful opportunity to call in that which we most want to receive, because that's ultimately what this is about. Now, in the language of Shamanic Egyptian Astrology, Venus is allied with Isis. And I've used Isis a lot during these little talks and these journeys that we do. I always like to end with a little journey with one of the Shamanic Egyptian archetypes. And I always, at the end of that journey, call Isis in, because she is the Queen Mother of Heaven. She wraps us in her rainbow wings, and she's with us through any process of transformation or change that we go through. So she really holds us close to her and allows us to receive her love, her compassion, her care, her protection. And I think for many of us, we might say, well, I value family, I value home, I value money, I value safety, I value security, I value a good job, or whatever it is. But what's under all of that, I think, for all of us, is a desire to feel expanded, to feel held, to feel loved. And so Isis very much gives us the ability or the capacity to feel into what it is that expands our heart. And that's really what our values are about, is what makes our heart sing. What is it that opens our heart up so that we're willing to receive love, to receive compassion, to receive all of those things that feel like they're important to us. And so we are, in a few minutes here, going to go on a little journey with both Nephthys and Isis, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about who they are in the Egyptian pantheon. But before we do that, I want to acknowledge that this place where we are right now, this underworld journey, has been with us for about a week now. And so things have been kind of crazy, kind of chaotic, and kind of intense. A lot of confusion and a lot of conflict and a lot of chaos going on in the world. And it's kind of like, how much more can we all take? And there is going to be a shift. And this shift is going to take place toward the end of this week on Saturday, which is the 27th. And what's going to happen is the planet Mars is going to enter Aries. And that's important because for a couple of reasons. First of all, Mars rules Aries. So Aries is that first sign of the zodiac. It's a fire sign. Aries in Greek mythology is the god of war. Mars in Roman mythology is the god of war. So Mars in Aries is a very assertive, a very sometimes aggressive, a very creative position for this for Mars to be in. This is a place where energy is moved outward in some way. Mars has been in Pisces for quite a while now, and it's been in relationship to transiting Neptune. Mars, the warrior, is not terribly comfortable in Pisces. It's a water sign. He sometimes feels like, if he doesn't have strong direction, which he gets from Venus. Venus is about values. Venus is meant to give Mars creative action, direction, send Mars out to manifest that which Venus decides it wants to receive. That happens within all of us. We have this internal part of ourselves that wants to receive something. What do we want to come into us? And then we have this other part of us that we can manifest, to go out and manifest the things that we want in the world, to manifest what we want to receive. And some of the problems for each of us as individuals is that these two energies can be kind of out of whack. And part of our personal growth work might be to bring them into alignment so that we manifest in the world what it is that we most value and what we want to receive. Many of us have issues with that at various times in our life. And this, by the way, is often reflected by the relationship between Venus and Mars in an individual chart. Now, collectively, we've had Venus in Gemini and we've had Mars in Pisces, which two signs which are what we astrologers would call square to one another. They're both what we call mutable signs. They're both very fluid. They move a lot, but they move in different directions. Gemini moves in the mind. Pisces moves in the emotions and feelings. And so while Venus in Gemini wants a lot of ideas and to be open, to juggle a lot of balls, wants a lot of information, has a lot of curiosity, Mars in Pisces wants to be in touch on an emotional level. And so they're kind of a disconnect between these two. And they don't necessarily know how to talk to each other and how to work together well. And then on top of it, we've had Venus retrograde, and Mars has been in relationship to Neptune. So, there's been a lot of confusion. The warrior's not been operating in any kind of consistent way and has not been manifesting either collectively or on an individual level what it is that we most want to receive. Now, there is going to be a shift in energy around this, and I'm going to talk more about this in the future because Mars is going to be in the sign Aries for quite a long time until Mars leaves Aries in January of 2021, January 6th. So that's over 6 months that Mars is going to be in the sign Aries. And so that's going to be quite impactful, and we'll be talking a lot about that in the future. But I wanted to bring it up because we will notice at the very end of the week, while we have this kind of nebulous sort of energy, it's almost like if we've been kind of making our way through this tunnel between the worlds over this last couple of weeks, toward the end of the week, we're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to start moving with more direction and more force toward that. Now, there might be some conflict around that because we're all in different tunnels and we're perceiving this journey in different ways. So, we'll talk more about that in the future, but I just wanted to bring that up. Mars is going to be, is in the sign Aries for that long because Mars is going to turn retrograde in Aries, and that will take place from September 9th through November 13th. So what Mars turns retrograde about once every 2 years for about 2 months. So, that means that we're going to have a lot of time to think about, to work with, to learn from Mars, the warrior king. This is set in the Egyptian pantheon, moving through his own sign, Aries. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that. And I want to come back to where we are right now, the energy that has been present over this last week and is going to be present for most of this week until Saturday, which is very much this underworld energy that has to do with us moving through the portal between the worlds, having just left the center point of that portal, meaning we've just left the midpoint of this entire year of the, left the solstice point, left that new moon solar eclipse, left all of these energies that are kind of marking a kind of a midpoint in this great shift year, this year 2020, which is this year of tremendous amount of transformation and change. So that energy is going to be coming back more strongly next week. We're going to have an exact conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto. They're both retrograde, which is going to be taking place at the beginning of next week, and I'll talk about that more next Monday. But we're shifting back into some other kind of energies, a little bit out of some of the confusion. Things are going to get a little bit clearer next week. And, I'm not big on prediction, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see some of the more transformative energies that we were dealing with earlier kind of intensifying again. We're already seeing some of the death tolls going up from coronavirus, and I think maybe we'll start to see more of that next week. But we'll know more about that when we get there. So to come back to where we are right now, we're in this place where two of the archetypes that are so powerful right now are Venus and Neptune. And in the Shamanic Egyptian pantheon, this is Isis and Nephthys. And what's important about these two is these two are sisters. They're twin sisters. And Isis is the solar goddess, Nephthys is the lunar goddess. And sometimes Nephthys is called the veiled Isis. So if you go to Egypt and you see a picture or you see, drawings of them on the walls of the temples, you can't really tell them apart. They're twins, so they look exactly alike. However, Isis's realm is the above world, Nephthys' realm is the below world. And Nephthys is also known as the keeper of the mysteries behind the veils. So again, she's the veiled Isis, so she's very mysterious. This is Neptunian energy. She's about cosmic consciousness. She's about higher inspiration, intuition, imagination. She also can be very confusing. That's her energy. Isis, on the other hand, she has laser vision and she can cut right to the heart of the matter. And so she has that solar vision. She's a sorceress. She's a very focused kind of being. She's also a nurturer. She's the queen mother of heaven. So she's a nurturer. She holds us in her rainbow wings. She's with us in any process of transformation or change that we go through. She never leaves us. So in that sense, she holds kind of the energy of the compassionate mother who's always present with us, holding us, letting us know that we are not alone as we move through processes of transformation and change. So these are both mothers, and if you know their myths at all, you know that they're very different kind of mothers. I'm not going to go into that right now, but there's a lot of energy around Isis as being a solar kind of mother, Nephthys as being a kind of underworld kind of mother. And while Isis is more attached, Nephthys is more detached. But what these ultimately are about is they are two halves of the same energy, which is the divine feminine or the divine yin energy, the divine mothering energy of one type or another, the generative energy of one type or another. So I want to extend an opportunity to go on a little journey with these two, because remembering that Isis is a manifestation of Venus. She's kind of, I think of her as Venus's great 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 grandmother, okay? And Nephthys is a feminine manifestation of Neptune. So they both have information for us, while, Isis is this solar energy and she cuts right to the heart of the matter. Nephthys is more diffuse. And so she's more about the mystery that's hidden behind the veils. But they both have information for us. And this is an opportunity, particularly we're still moving through Nephthys' realm, moving through this underworld journey, to receive information, particularly about what it is that we most want to receive. Okay, with Venus turning direct later this week, Wednesday, Thursday night, depending on where you are in the world, Venus is going to become direct. We have an opportunity to sort of discern from all of the options that Gemini presents to us, what balls do we most want to juggle? What's most important to us? If we try and juggle them all, we get overwhelmed, okay? It's too much information. So what do we want to listen to most? What do we value the most? What do we want to receive the most? Because this will inform what actions we are going to be taking for the rest of the year. And it's important, with Mars set moving into Aries, this is going to be very much about action, okay? And the thing with a warrior king, he needs to be directed by a strong Venus, a strong yin principle. So what we want to receive is extremely important. If we haven't discerned that yet, now's the time. Now's absolutely the time. And Nephthys can give us some information that's kind of hidden behind the veils. Okay? So I want to invite everyone to take a couple of nice deep breaths. To allow yourself to be comfortable. If you're sitting, put your feet solidly on the floor. If you're lying down, feel the support that's under you. Nice, deep, even breaths. These are meditative types of breaths that can allow us to let go of distractions, drop down into our bodies. And I want you to imagine that you are in a temple. And this is a temple of both light and shadow. And allow yourself to look around the space that you have come to and see all of the ways that the light intermingles with the shadow, the light and the darkness. In this place, they exist simultaneously. There is separation between them, but there are places where they meet and where they intermingle, where there is a gradation between them. And it's all one temple. It's all one place. So allow yourself to really feel the truth of this interplay of light and shadow. And you become aware that a woman enters the temple and comes and stands in front of you. And she is bathed in golden light. This is Isis, Queen Mother of Heaven. She of the solar light, she who has laser vision, who sees and speaks and knows the truth. The ultimate nurturer, the queen of her domain. She has the vision of a hawk. She sees far and she sees clearly. And she has come to join you, to share with you what it is that matters the most, to help you discern what is most important to you. And stepping out now of the shadows, coming to stand beside her, is Nephthys, keeper of the mysteries behind the veils. These two are twins. But while Isis is bathed in solar light, Nephthys is hidden by a veil, by the mists and the fogs of the shadows. Her features shift and change as she's hidden behind these veils. She is here to reveal to you that which you have not yet considered, that which has been hidden from you. That if you are completely honest with yourself, if you allow yourself to be shattered and opened by Isis's laser vision, you understand what matters the most to you. For now is a time to act from that which is most important, to step out of confusion and illusion, to drop out of delusion, to be completely honest with ourselves about what is most important, what we most value. There's no more time to waste about this. We must be in right relationship with our deepest values. And Nephthys is here to help us see through the illusion and see what is most important. I'm going to be quiet now for a bit and allow you to journey with these two beautiful goddesses, these two archetypes of the divine feminine, and allow them to reveal to you the truth about what it is that you most want to receive, and to remove any places where you've avoided the truth of what it is that you most value. Nice deep breath. And allow yourself to journey with these two beautiful aspects of the divine feminine. Remember to breathe. If you are willing, these two will now come close to you. They will wrap their energies around you. Isis with her beautiful rainbow wings. Nephthys with her darker but equally beautiful wings. And her energy of other realms. They will wrap their energies around you and hold you close. And they will reveal to you who you really are. Who are you under the distractions of your ego identity, under the burden of your fear, your doubt? Who are you? This is yours to embody. This is yours to receive. And from this place, you will take action. So I'm going to be quiet again for a bit and let you receive from these two beautiful beings information about who you really are. Nice deep breath. Don't forget to breathe. Nice deep breath. Coming back into the room. I hope all of you will be gentle and kind with yourself this week. This is a time to go inward, to be in introspection, and to listen to the inner voices, and to allow yourself to feel held and cared for by forces that are bigger than our ego identity. So stay connected. Take care of yourselves. Thank you for being with me, and we will talk again.